Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so glad you're here. How are you doing? Are you enjoying fall? I am looking out the window right now. The leaves are changing. The plein air painters are here with their easels set up all over the property, taking in this gorgeous fall colors and then creating beautiful art out of it. I mean, can my life get any better? I feel like I live in a movie. It's just so beautiful. And a part of that absolute beauty is you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for just making it possible. You know, I can talk and talk and talk, but if there's no one to listen, we don't have a podcast. So thank you. Thank you for being such a key ingredient of this lovely, lovely thing that I get to do. Today's guest, Kathleen Young, actually responded to a request that I made a couple of weeks ago. I was on Instagram doing a live with a friend who had never done a live before, and just decided to put a call out there that if anybody was nervous about doing an Instagram live and they wanted a buddy and they wanted a safe place to practice this thing that can feel scary, that they could reach out to me and I would happily do that. And sweet Kathleen Young, whom I had never met before, raised her hand and said, "Yes, please, me." And so we started a conversation, and I thought, absolutely, I'll do a live with you, but I would also really like to interview you for the podcast as well, because I love the ways that she is saying yes to herself. So let me tell you a little bit about her. Kathleen Young is the founder of Aurora Lights Coaching. She is a passionate and highly effective personal development coach who supports individuals and groups. She believes in intentionally strong and consistent commitment to wellness, purpose, and happiness. She is a true advocate of self-discovery and the practice of self-love. Kathleen recognizes that life can be very stressful. Financial pressures, overscheduling, difficult relationships, loneliness, low self-esteem, anxiety or depression, coupled with unhealthy thought patterns based in trauma, keeps a person from living their fullest life. And it doesn't need to happen. Structured coaching helps clients face challenges and move forward in healthy, supportive ways. Kathleen empowers others to understand, identify, and label unhealthy thought patterns and behaviors and replace them in ways that are transformative. She provides accountability checks, resources, and strategies along the way. She has studied with Barry Michels, the co-author of The Tools, the subject of Jonah Hill's documentary, Stutz. The Tools, along with light shadow work, is at the foundation of her work. And she has so graciously offered to our listeners a complimentary session so that you can ask some questions and get her feedback and see if you would like to continue a relationship with her in her fabulous coaching arena. So thank you, Kathleen, for that generous offer. And friends, I invite you to enjoy this conversation with my new friend, Kathleen Young. Kathleen, I am so excited to have you here just to catch our listeners up and let them know what we're all in for. A few weeks ago, I went live with my friend Kim because she had never done a live before. And actually, a few days before that, I went live with my friend Missy, whom we just posted her episode of the podcast a few weeks ago. She had never gone live before. And I just asked during that live if anybody has never gone live or they need some a confidence boost of a friend, then I am your girl. And you lovingly, I was so excited, reached out to me in DMs and said, oh, that's me. And so I'm so happy to have you here. And I am so happy to get to know you in real time with our listeners.
Yes.
So Kathleen Young, tell us everything.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Wendy. This is really such a great opportunity. And I'm just loving getting to know you as well. So yeah, the whole theme of saying yes is huge for me right now. I've pretty much committed to living a bold existence. And that has been from, choosing bold colors in my home and my space, to saying yes to things more often, being more spontaneous, and also with my company, just going full forward with that. And I've had a lot of help along the way in terms of tapping into some incredible resources and trainings and retreats that have really given me a lot more bravery and tools to kind of push through any resistance. So I'm really happy to be here today to talk about it.
Oh, that's so amazing. I have so many questions now. So this decision to live a bold life, I love that. I love your orange chair.
Thank you.
And
I love
beautiful blue dress. It's so fun. So yes, I do see the evidence of you choosing boldly, even in your surroundings.
Yeah.
Is this a departure from the way that you were previously living, or is this something that's been a theme and you just were bold from birth?
Yeah, I think I became bold in high school, actually. I grew up with a lot of societal kind of rules and expectations. And I started to realize that's not the way I wanted to live. So I was quite mischievous in my high school years in terms of taking chances and doing things that were fun and a little misleading to my parents, to be honest with you. But it all turned out to be really good for me, because again, I was in quite a repressed situation. So I think I've always been bold. And then I was a teacher for 25 years, and I was very bold with that as well. Kind of put out initiatives that were a little bit edgy, put out concerns about wellness and mindfulness for kids that took up a lot of space at times, but were really necessary. But schools are so overloaded, and people are so exhausted that you do have to push for that kind of stuff, as well as like curriculum changes at the schools I was at, to bring it more front and center in terms of what the modern issues are. And then I did a lot of.
Can I ask you a question about that, please? Sorry. So you live in Massachusetts now. Have you always been here? And were you teaching? Was this a public school system?
Yeah.
Now that I have a little, and she's in elementary school, I'm like, tell me what I need to know.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So, so I grew up in New York, in Queens, which kind of paved the way for me to be a little more adventurous,
right,
and the type of people I met, and did give me a little bit of oomph, because you need that in Queens. Sure. I moved to Massachusetts for college, did a few things outside of the state, but then came back because I love New England so much, and taught I started out with special ed.
Okay.
So I worked with kids with emotional regulation issues initially, and that was really tough but incredibly rewarding work. And then I went into work with the dyslexic and language processing kind of curriculum to help kids with those struggles. And then I went from that, I was teaching history. I went to a more history-based type of teaching with social justice issues, and then really kind of honed in on wellness and open dialogue and respectful communication and all of that. So that's where the second half of my teaching went. So a lot of that was again keeping up with kind of progressive initiatives, which sometimes took a bit to get going.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing work. I'm so happy we're connected.
Yeah,
this is
thank
amazing.
you, Wendy. Yeah, I really loved it. I really did love it. And then when things got so politically divisive, it became really hard after all of I was a bit of a fighter for things. It became really hard at that time to really be able to teach authentically. So after trying for a bit, I pulled away from that and I said, you know what, there's other work I can do. I love the wellness piece. I love the, being authentic, being the fullest life you can live, like really reaching for that. So then I got into coaching. And then opened up my own business, which was another big risk. But it's been working out really well. And I just love that work. So I feel really lucky because I was able to go from something I was really passionate about for a really long time. And then it was a very smooth transition into coaching because so much of teaching involves coaching anyway.
Sure. Oh, that's so great.
Yeah.
And then in your coaching, I love this transition as well, because as we age,
yes,
and as the people in our care age out, there's a lot of transition going on for me personally, for my friend group. I think for a lot of our listeners, there's just this, I think it's several things coming together. It is our age. I think it's post-pandemic and just that giant pause and opportunity to be out of the rush and the routine for such an extended period of time, that as we brought things back in to our schedules and our daily new routines, there was a chance to question, am I available for this?
yes.
What do I actually want? So I'm noticing transition as a theme in the people that are choosing to do a farm stay at the bed and breakfast, the people that are choosing to go on my trips, the people that are even coming to the workshops. And there's just this shift that's happening. And I'm really happy to be talking about it, to be normalizing it in some way that just gives people permission to feel and do and desire something different than what they had before.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's easy to go in one direction or the other. I feel like COVID really numbed us out in a lot of ways. So it did give us permission to stop doing things as we've maybe been doing them for decades. But at the same time, it people kind of got really stuck at times. And then I think it really numbed people. It kind of stopped as much, social interaction. So I feel like the things that you're offering, Wendy, are really amazing because you almost need some tools or some avenues to go into forward motion. And I kind of felt like to get out of that stuck space, or also some of the limitations that society puts on you because of aging. Like, I need to go out there strong. I need to get into like a life force. I need to start saying yes to everything I can. And then, one thing I talk to my clients about a lot is flow. Like, just keep going, just keep living, just keep putting yourself out there. The outcome does not matter as much as the fact that you're living life fully and that you're expressing yourself. And then things will kind of come into a flow, and then you'll deal with the next piece then. But much better to get moving and do some of the things, again, like the trips that you're doing, or the, different, socializing, meeting new people. So much better to do that than to just kind of turn on the TV or scroll, with all of your free time.
Right. Agreed. And I'm using my wedding planning experience to just curate these opportunities that only require one yes.
Yes.
And then the whole day is planned for you, or the whole weekend if it's a farm stay, or the whole week if it's a trip to France.
Yes.
So I love that. I mean, I'm just doing what's in my heart. Yeah. So I'm thrilled that you as a coach think that's a good strategy.
Yeah. And you know what? I like that you offer things that are easier to say yes to, right? It's simplified. And I think people don't always give themselves permission to go for the things that are already set up for them to even with coaching, to be honest, there are people that are like, well, I can just do that myself, or I know what I need to do and I just need to do it. But it's not always that easy. If you're feeling, if you have any kind of physical depression, anxiety, or fatigue, or if you're just kind of tired of going at things alone, there are supports out there. So there's, programs that you offer, there's fun things that are already created. There's ways to cook your meals that make life so much easier. Going to a coach can really give you the support to say, okay, these are the things I'm going to do. The results will be so much better. And I took care of myself by reaching out and saying, you know what, support is something that I deserve. And it is something that's going to actually enhance the way I can do things. So yeah, I in terms of saying yes, I say yes to grabbing onto supports and knowing you're worth it and knowing it's okay to go after things that are kind of pre-designed to help you.
Yes, yes. And you're so right. That support, of course, we know cognitively what we should do, or sometimes we don't. But it's having that accountability, that support. It's not someone just telling you what time it is using your watch. It's not like that. It's someone choosing a coach, a mentor that is already living an element of the life that you want, and then asking them, how do you do this?
Yes. Or even being able to recognize, it's really hard. We have these thought patterns, these cognitive thought patterns that have been taught to us since birth, right? So when we didn't have as much power, we didn't have as much autonomy, we had to kind of create thought patterns that would keep us safe or help us understand things that are not helpful right now. So, for instance, one is perfectionism. If you had to please your parents in order to get attention or approval or to make things a bit calmer at home, you may have created this perfectionism that keeps you from accessing your creativity and your happiness now, right? Or you might have taken on self-blame because it's easier to blame yourself if there are problems than to blame your caregivers. That's scary to think that your caregivers, the people responsible for your wellness and your survival, are dealing with really intense problems. Right. So there's all of these patterns that are ingrained with us. So with a coach, you can actually take a look at those patterns and think, are those accurate? Why do I keep working with those assumptions? How is that working for me? And then how can I change it? How can I change to actually have my own program about the way I want to look at life instead of something that's been like predetermined or pre-recorded? So the work can be incredibly deep. I do also shadow work. There's this shadow work coaching. And it's
what does that mean?
Therapy. Yeah. I mean, they do that in therapy as well, but I do a piece of it where you basically look at parts of yourself that you repressed, maybe due to pressures at school or messages at school, or maybe religious institutions, or messages you were given based on your gender. And you repress parts of yourself to either fit in or to be okay, or to, just kind of get through life. And those parts of you want to come out, and those parts of you are missing pieces. So if you're able to tap into the parts of you that you repressed, connect with that, and then bring it out in a way that works for you and that part, that's incredible. Then you're really integrating all the pieces of yourself. So one piece could be someone that was really a girl that was really talkative, and really expressive. And then she was shamed for that and shut down a lot. It doesn't mean that she wants to kind of bring back a piece of her that's just going to talk endlessly and have no awareness of how she's being in conversations. But if she can kind of tap into that and reclaim her voice, bring it forward in a way that works for her. I was working with this one client who was really, really repressed a lot of things. And after one session with shadow work, she found herself dancing in a garden, a public garden. And she used to do that as a kid, right? So yeah, it's just incredible. If you can bring back more of the pieces of joy, spontaneity, just who you are, think about living the rest of your life with those pieces. That's incredible work.
It really is. And I agree with what you're saying about finding a mentor, finding someone who can help you. A mentor, a coach just sees what we don't see.
Yeah.
And, whether that is in some sort of group dynamic, whether it's one-on-one, whether it's a combination of all. I am in 2 group programs.
Oh, great.
I work one-on-one with 2 coaches.
Nice.
I have a mastermind, and I'm sure other things. So it's, we know that we are the sum of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So I am immersing myself in community with people that are headed in the direction that I am going as well. And, I cannot recommend more highly getting support and then also curating community that is in alignment with that support that you're getting, because it's a shift. It would be like if I was trying to learn French, but I kept hanging out with my people that don't speak French. I'm never going to get fluent, or I'm never going to be able to really acclimate unless I am in an immersion program.
Yeah. I was going to say that, like, you're talking about immersing yourself in what you want, right? Which is going to then put you in that direction. And to do that, you need to set boundaries. You need to say no to things. You need to even realize what it is you want. You need to have the confidence to say, I can do this. And also the realization that you deserve happiness, that you deserve this. The thing about, so with therapy, right, which is not what I do, you go back and you take a look at all the things that happen, you kind of work through them. And that can be very valuable. It could also be kind of endless at times too, right? So with coaching, some people just do a 10-session package with me, to be able to, again, identify thought patterns that aren't working, look at new ones, set some goals, set the timeline for those goals, identify obstacles that might get in the way of those goals, practice conversations they can have to set boundaries and to make these things happen, and then actually action steps to go forward and to move forward. And it can be just incredibly effective. And just, again, you're making also the decision to plow ahead and to get into this, new flow for yourself.
Sure. No, I am a super fan.
Yeah.
What would you say is a common theme of the clients that you're working with? Is it using their voice, like you mentioned before? Is it imposter syndrome?
Yeah, imposter syndrome is huge. Insecurity. So basically, feeling like they can't leave a job, or they can't ask for what they want, or they don't deserve to create the space for them to start a new hobby or to go after something that's going to make them happy. So a lot of times we take a look at that, like, what made you feel that way? Let's think about how you can strengthen yourself to not continue to go back. So there's this one thing, I don't know if you've seen, Wendy, the documentary called Stutz.
No.
Yeah, it's fabulous. Jonah Hill.
Okay.
Who's, an actor that did a lot of kind of, he's really funny, but he did a lot of almost humiliating roles in his work, comedy. He was, pretty large when he came into acting, and a lot of it was like making fun of him being overweight and all of those kind of things. So he wound up seeing a therapist who challenged, why is it that you're taking on these roles, and what is it you're trying to get out of that, and don't you deserve better? And then he wound up making a documentary about his therapist, whose name is Phil Stutz. And then Phil Stutz came out with these things called the tools, and he wrote, he co-authored a book with Barry Michels, and it's called The Tools, and it became a New York Times bestseller. And basically what that book really is about is it's about a part of you that works against you, part of you that tells you, hey, stay in bed another hour, even if that's not good for you. I mean, self-care is one thing, but there's times that's not good for you. Or, hey, don't go to that social event. Or, hey, you can't open that new business. Hey, you can't leave that relationship. Or, even just comes at you with like, why did you do that? That was wrong. That was stupid. That didn't sound good. The difference between something that's positive self-reflection and just something that's holding you back, keeping you down. So he came up with all of these ways to kind of push through that and say no to that voice. And you're not saying no to yourself, and you're not saying no to the parts of you that might be hurting, right? And therefore afraid. You're saying no to that voice. And so you basically identify it. He calls it part X, because it's a part of you, and it X's out your potential. So
I love that.
Yeah. You say, hey, that's part X. Right. Then you label it and you say, okay, yep, I'm identifying. Now I'm saying, hey, this is the thing that's not good for me. And then you basically fight back, and you say, you basically do the opposite, or you basically, he uses a lot of swear words in terms of how he communicates with his part X. But there's a huge, movement. So I've studied with the co-author, Barry Michels, went on 2 different week-long retreats this summer and the summer before. At Omega, which is an amazing retreat center in Rhinebeck, New York. It's just the best place ever. And there's this just like powerful work, because then you also you use those tools to work with the hurt parts of you as a way to say, hey, we can do this. We can fight this voice. We can move forward. We can get into a flow. We can get energy. We can actually go after what we want in life. And just having that structure and that kind of, like vehicle to get to where you want helps a lot, because it gets you out of your logical mind into your gut to intuition and your gut feelings. And then you go forward with it without all that nonsense that happens in your head. So that's been a game changer for me and for my coaching as well. I loved coaching before that, obviously, but this is I've just seen people really, really get much more braver when they have, these kind of vehicles to drive them forward.
Right. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I love knowing about that work. We'll definitely link it in the show notes.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. And coaches now use that as well, because again, they're just so powerful. They have a sequel coming alive that talks a lot about Part X. I actually recommend that people read the first 2 chapters of that, even though it's the second book, and then they dive into the first book. But it's really transformative.
Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Course, yeah.
Are there any other resources that are your go-to for recommending to clients?
Yeah. So, I really do like working with cognitive thought distortions. So that's, so again, if you blame yourself, perfectionism, comparing yourself with others, making assumptions, even though they just come out of nowhere and you're like, why am I limiting myself like that? Feeling like you can control things that you can't, or that you should, that you're responsible for things you shouldn't be, or that you're not really responsible for, especially feelings of relatives or situations of relatives that you can't control. Another thing that I really love is the CIA, which is not the government office, CIA method, where you really look at your life and you say, what can I control? What can I influence? And if I can't control or influence, I need to put it in the accept column, and I need to use the tools or use the coaching or use the structures I set up in my mind to say, I'm letting that go.
Oh, that's really good.
Free.
Can you give an example of a thought that you would apply the CIA method to, please?
So yeah, there's a couple that come to mind. One is a work one, and one is kind of with in-laws, say, right?
Perfect. Right in time for the holidays.
Exactly.
Bring it on.
I am going to get some emergency calls in to have emergency sessions around I'm already getting some of those in, believe it or not.
I bet.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're a great resource.
Yeah, it helps. It does. So at work, say the top leadership is, from what you can see, feels very dysfunctional, and they're making decisions that are backwards, or they're asking you to do things that you do, and then after you complete this big project, they don't even look at it, right? And it's just so frustrating because you're passionate about your work. You want the company to be successful. But carrying that weight and that angst can really make you feel really burnt out. So
Sure.
take a look at your job that you can control, and then you do those pieces as best as you can, and you figure out how to do that in a way that doesn't burn you out. Then you look at the pieces you can influence, and you come up with a plan for that. So you can say, well, I can talk to these particular people. I can set up a meeting with the boss or the CEO. I can come up with this alternative plan and present it. Once I've done all the things that feel good to me to do and safe for me to do, then I just need to let go. That's it. And I can revisit that, by the way. I can come back to that CIA chart in 2 weeks, in a week, in 6 months to say, is there anything new I can shift here? But for you to carry that weight and come home from work every day just absolutely livid or tangled up and just being like, I can't take this anymore, especially if you want to ride it out and stay at that company because things might shift. So that's one of the things. The other thing is, in-laws that come, and if they're dissatisfied with things, they like things in another way. What can you control to make their visit easier? What can you put in place that doesn't compromise your own beliefs, or that you're not just placating, right?
Sure.
But what can you do to influence how they're going to treat you, or how much time you're going to spend with them? Or things that you can say as a way to say, hey, we prefer you not make comments or judgments on that. And then when they get there, and even if they, do things that are really obnoxious, to be like, we did everything we could, we're letting it go. And you can make decisions then and say, well, now we need to shorten the visit, or we are just going to enjoy being with them because they're set in their ways. But kind of pre-planning it gets you out of the cycle and like the constant, like, well, what should we do? Or should I let them talk to me that way? Or, and it just gets so exhausting. So having something kind of preset that you can tweak if you want, really relieves a lot of that pressure.
Oh, that's so helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's again, it's just building in supports for yourself so that you don't always have to be on. You don't always have to feel like you need to figure everything out every second of the day.
Right.
Yeah.
That's exhausting. Even just thinking of that sentence sounds tiring.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing the pressure we put on ourselves.
Isn't it?
It is. We don't have to. A lot of it comes just from us. It really does.
Right. And we can get caught in this loop of, well, yeah, maybe I'm doing it to myself, but I have no other choice.
Yes.
And that's when we have an opportunity to realize that we actually do.
Yeah.
And that we are allowing, to some extent, the behavior that we're encountering. Yeah. And when we're somehow available for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So we need to become unavailable for it. And then that's when the change begins to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
and you do have to carve out the intention and the time and the supports to do this work, because otherwise it's just very easy to just get kind of, looped back into the stress, or that you don't do it consistently and actually find results. You really do need to, just like you'd go to the gym, right? Mm-hmm. Or just like you'd go to, another expert for something, like you really do need to carve out the time.
Yes.
Otherwise the weeks just go by, and then, it's a year or 2 years from now where they're like, oh, I wish I did this. Or I get a lot of people saying that to me, is if only I
Sure.
knew about the tools 5 years ago, if only I started coaching. And it winds up, a lot of times it winds up saving you money at the end, because you do ask for that raise, or you do stop doing things you don't want to do, or you get creative, or you don't spend money on shopping because you feel more fulfilled with.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you're right. Like you said, likening it to going to the gym, or
Yeah.
how I mentioned likening it to learning a new language. We're learning a new way of thinking and being in our world. It's not, oh, I listened to one podcast and now I've got it, or I read a book and now I'm going to do this. So it really takes consistent, aligned support coupled with community that of other people on this path alongside of you. I would say for me, those two things have been instrumental and elemental for the change that I've been dancing in. I don't know, twirling around in,
Yes. Yeah.
crying over all
Yes,
the
yes.
things for the past 3.5 years. And people are asking me as I'm out and about in town, and like, how are you doing all of that? I don't understand. And I'm doing what feels good and aligned, and I am doing the best I can. And I have 100% released perfectionism in
So good.
any form.
Perfectionism, and you don't even know what you're trying to be perfect at. Like, it's all a myth.
Right. Yeah. It's true. I mean, on the way, I had to message you, I'm going to be 3 minutes late because I
couldn't care less, but you probably thought something about that, right? I wonder
how. Well, and it's like I was scraping manure off of the walls of the chicken coop. So really, perfectionism has left the building, and
it is bad stuff. It gets us sick. It gets us stuck. It takes away creativity. It's not good, and it's not necessary.
Right. Perfect is the enemy of good.
Yeah.
And that was something that I heard very early in my personal development journey. And it was pivotal because as a wedding planner, every day that I was at work, hooray, it was the best day of their life. But there's also an expectation level associated with the budget and, and the just all the elements that are coming into this day, and all of the planning and the months and months and months of planning for one day. There's a really high expectation. And so that just became my habit of how I show up and how I, quote unquote, have to show up, because this really is a highly charged, I'm not a brain surgeon.
That does sound incredibly. Why do you think you went for that role, for that kind of job?
Twofold. I didn't realize this, like when you look back, you're like, oh, that probably lended itself to the way I do things. I grew up a mile away from Disneyland.
Oh, wow.
And we went there often because I am not a young woman. And so when I was a kid, it cost $5 to go to Disneyland, and there were tickets. So, we would collect all the tickets that past visitors had left in our junk drawer because they were for, the merry-go-round or Tom Sawyer's Island or the Swiss Family.
That's a score. Yeah.
Right. So those were A tickets, and there were a lot of A tickets in our junk drawer. So we probably did this one time, but in my memory, we did it all the time. So my mother is listening. She can correct us, but I know it happened once. And so we would walk to Disneyland and hang out and play on Tom Sawyer's Island. And it was so fun. And then take the monorail to the Disneyland Hotel and watch Dancing Waters. My mom would meet us there. That was free. It was so fun. So I think going back as an adult, I'm like, oh, okay, this place is perfect. Like, it's always clean. There's never a wrapper on the ground. And there's all of these magic people with their little broom and dustpan, and they're cleaning stuff up. And if it rains, then all of a sudden all the benches are dry. And so I think there was just this, like, you can create an environment that brings joy and anticipates the need before you even know you have it. And so that's just
interesting. Yeah.
But my expectation of how things went was really formed.
Think about the bar you're comparing your you know, what a high bar at Disney, you know, like that's
they actually have staff.
Yeah.
I never even had staff, and I was just holding myself to this. Ooh, if I see a need, that means I'm the person who's supposed to meet the need.
That's a lot of pressure and weight.
Yeah, that's a tall order. I did that myself. Like, nobody did that to me. I did that to myself. And then I also went to a really small Bible college. And one year I was invited to be in 10 weddings, which is too many.
Yeah, that's way too many.
Way too many. And it was the 90s. So all the bridesmaid dresses were very puffy, and there was not space. There was not space in the little closets for all those bridesmaid dresses. So I offered to do more behind the scenes jobs for the girls that I was not as close to. And I loved being the girl in the back of the room with the clipboard, because I also watched a lot of Love Boat growing up, and I wanted to be Julie McCoy, right? Julie McCoy. She was the activities director on the cruise ship and had her clipboard, and I wanted to be her. Yeah. So I love knowing everything that's going to happen. And I love being the first girl on the scene and the last one to leave, so nothing happens that I don't know about. And that is the same thing that I provide for my clients now, but with all of this experience and then this personal development work, it's, instead of being infused with perfectionism, I feel like it has transitioned to just being infused with grace, because I know what's on the agenda. I know my client and what's going to be delightful. And as the gatekeeper of time and space, I can say, oh, it's okay that it took you longer. Hey, whenever you arrive is the perfect time. And then we just make whatever can still happen. And what doesn't,
role model you are, right? Because you are providing something excellent and wonderful, but it's more fluid and it's more flexible. And I would imagine that they read that energy when they get to you, right? And immediately probably just their shoulders probably drop, right?
I'm so glad. Yes, that's exactly what I want.
It sounds like you enjoyed a lot of your work, but for you to actually make the transition into a space that's more free, more loving, more accepting, more open to whatever happens, which really is what life is about, right? Just being open to what happens. What's the next thing? We don't have to control every little piece. And so you combined really a lot of great things into the work you're doing now.
Thank you. Yes, this was the tool that made that happen, because this place is alive and it's big and it's historic, and perfectionism has no place in it, because you will never get anything done if you are expecting perfection. This house will eat you alive.
So this house is a teacher for you. This house is a coach for you.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's by no accident that you stumbled upon it, because this was part of your growth. And this is, we call
absolutely
fall in things to our lives that we, can learn from. So that's really, really cool.
Absolutely. It has been my crash course in giving myself grace.
Yeah. Wow.
And then it's fun because it is, people come and they see it and they feel that release and that relaxation, and people will just drop by. And I'm chatting with them and really enjoying the conversation. And they'll say, oh gosh, I'm taking too much of your time. You're very busy. And I can, with 100% truth, say, nothing is more important to me than this conversation we're having right now, because I know all of these chores, they will still be here because I've lived here for 10 years and they're still here. So
all of those chores are there as a way to support moments like that, right?
Exactly.
You do the chores and you don't take the reward in the moments like that, and you don't just live in the moment. Then what are those chores for?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And I want everyone to feel welcomed and anticipated and celebrated, whether I knew they were coming or they're just driving by and want to know what this is all about.
Well, you mentioned community as well, fun. Right? And that's a gift to you to draw in community in a positive way, a positive community.
Yes.
One that's seeking things, they want to explore, they want to ask questions, they want to bring some of this into their world. That's wonderful stuff.
Right. And I didn't have to change out of my rubber boots to do it. It's so brilliant.
Yeah, that is pretty good. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. Well, I'm so happy that this community has brought us together as well. Thank you so much.
I've not been to that house yet, but I'm planning to stop by. I'm over in Beverly on the North Shore.
Oh, yay!
But I taught in Worcester and I lived in Acton for a long time, so I totally know your neck of the woods, and I'll be stopping by. And I'm really excited to have yet another wonderful connection, and women, right? Women connecting. Women is so important.
Oh, well, I would love for you to come to a supper club. We're doing supper club.
That.
The first Friday of the month, and have a special guest speaker that comes and gather provisions
there. That'd be wonderful.
Perfect. Great. Yes. Gather Provisions provides our multi-course chef's tasting menu. It's all super, super fun. So
in a beautiful location. Hey, so this is great. Yeah. Thank you so much, Wendy. This has been such a pleasure. And I look forward to staying connected. And I love your podcast. I've been listening to it. It's such a gift. So I'm just gonna, I haven't listened to all the episodes yet, so I'm looking forward to those. And thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I receive all of that. Please tell everybody where they can find you, where they can follow all of your good work.
Yeah, so my company is called Aurora Lights Coaching. So that's a synonym for Northern Lights. So Aurora Lights Coaching. I'm out of Beverly, Mass, but I do a lot of my work virtually. My email is Kathleen at Aurora Lights Coaching. 978-759-7803. I actually do give a half-hour free consult where we can dive in to any things that you'd like to discuss and make sure it's a good fit, because that's really important. So I look forward to hearing from any of your listeners, and or even just to answer some questions. So great. Yeah, thank you, Wendy. And also I'm a Coach to Shine on Instagram. So coach and the number 2 and the word shine.
Perfect. And we will link all of that in the show notes to make it easy for people. But thank you so much, Kathleen. This has been delightful.
Enjoy your chickens.
Oh, thank you. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site, or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wrighthouse and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.